Got a little bit of time on my hands in between tasks at work. It's a great opportunity to get some more work done on Snarfles, which is exactly what I want to work on right now. I'd really like to get this thing a little better than it is right now because there's no story at the moment built into the vertical slice, and the art is a little bit outdated by this point. I figure both those things could go a long way in just showing off the appeal a little bit better. I left off working on colors of the new models, and I'm really close to getting it to work, but it doesn't yet. Not just yet. I need to be able to affect this one programmatically, and I thought that typing a missive would do it on here, but it didn't. I could try something like that. In fact, why don't I just try like every possible do any of those work? I don't know. Not one. That's so crazy. Okay, well, I can't say I'm too sure what to do with that. I actually don't know what the strat is there. How is this difficult, bro? You know what else is funny is it is still a normal mesh filter or a mesh renderer, which is pretty awkward. And none of my theories about it being skinned or something matter at all. Q control. Oh, that's funny. I just realized I don't have my webcam on. Let's bring that back at least. Is that all I'm missing? Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. If it's not that, does it have to do with the fact that it's like an HDR color instead of normal color? I really doubt it. I really doubt that matters. It's called in the inspector just a missive. I could always go back here and see if there's like a different variable name behind this. No, there's not. It's just a missive. Like that. So that should work. And it just doesn't. And I hate that. I really hate that. Why? I don't understand, bro. Does it have to do with this? Do I have to do that? That'd be awesome if it was that simple. Nope. Dude. Isn't that weird? It's frustrating. It's really annoying actually. Wait, do we ever do? Okay, hang on a second. I mean, oh, dude. Why? Why does it have to be like this? Be right back. Think about this for a second. This is so much more work than it should be. For nothing. Nothing at all, bro. Oh, how does that not just work on the first try? Let me check something real quick. On the other side of things, we're doing just color, underscore color, no caps, and that is this one right here. So in theory, we should be able to just say set color, and then it should just be like this. And it's not somehow. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. Huh. Like, bro, how are you gonna just not? You're gonna be just like, nah, that won't do anything. I don't get it. Let me compare real quick to like a normal one. That's why we check that. I honestly don't know what else to try. You know, let me do something weird. Yeah, something like that. What? Okay, yeah, that was an old that was an old error. I was gonna say that does not make sense. Okay, let's see. This way I can just iterate through every possible combination that I can think of. What? Hold on. At what point exactly did that happen? Okay, yeah, this was a really smart way to do this, actually. That's the one. I could have sworn I already tested that, but all right. It's gonna just work now. Okay. That's funny. I don't understand why the red one colors it, but the green one doesn't. Kinda hate that. Oh, that's such a great thing that we just did, though. Wow. It's actually huge. Does the grass get colored, by the way? Does the grass get colored? Red when I sacrifice it? Yes, barely, I think. Yeah, it does. That's reasonable. Okay, then we just need to figure out what's up with the outlines, right? Which I bet you has something to do with that script. We're probably, even though I haven't written that code, uh, we're gonna have to edit it. Oh, hang on. Maybe start by having one. Why is that not on here at all? Probably testing something else, huh? Okay. Let's open this guy up. Mm-hmm. You know what I could potentially do? Switch that out. temporarily, because that'll tell you. I have a feeling it has more to do with the fact that it's a weird mesh than anything else. I mean, maybe it has to do with the vertices somehow. Hmm. Yeah, I store it on UV2. I'm pretty sure I never use UV4 or 3. Let's see if that's true. UV1? Wait, we just look for those, right? I think we just look for those, essentially. Well, there's UV0. Emissive X vat normals are. Huh. Color 4. Um, Interesting. Yeah, I don't think it has to do with that. I really don't. So it's either gonna have to do. It's gonna have to do with the mesh, realistically. I think. Yeah, I mean, there it is. Huh. Um, I'm gonna push what I have right now real quick. And then I'm gonna ask. Yeah, whatever. See how it goes. See how it goes. Um, this is a crazy amount of thinking. If this gets finished, then the next thing is to bring animations in, which is going to be way funner. That's kind of exciting to work on. I also think we could do a little bit of an overhaul on the tiles, make them just slightly better. They don't need that much really, but I think a little bit of work would go a long way. You know what I mean? Um, that's probably a good idea. Toggling everything. Interesting. Really, you think that's all it takes? I have a seriously hard time believing that's going to change anything, dude. We're just bypassing all of the vertex math if it's a vat. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, that changed nothing. Did we just give up on it? At least the colors are back. Do we give up on having an outline for this? It's so dumb to me. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Hmm. I, as far as everything I've read from the script, there's nothing that we're doing to the original material. Was it change the actual shader? This is why we backed it up. We'll let it cook, and if it doesn't work, then we'll move on. So I really don't think this is a good approach. I kind of think what we should maybe do is just give it a best try here, because I can't think of anything to do. I think these things are completely incompatible. And then just move on. I guess the other thing I could do is just look up if anybody's written one specifically for VATs. Do it as a post-processing effect? Really? Wait, I bet you if I knew the shader graph well enough, I could just build it into the original shader. That might be worth a try. I could learn a little bit more about shader graph in the process. Oh my, it has to reload all the shaders just because one of them changed. Looks to me like that changed nothing. Let me make sure it didn't break anything in the process. If I scrub through this, let's still animate properly. I have to do it on. Yeah, it still animates fine. Okay, so basically what I'm getting is that if I want this thing to work, I'm gonna have to leave it off of here and make my own one somehow from scratch as part of the shader. Let's watch the tutorial. I'm gonna watch it straight through and see if I can understand it. And then I'm gonna watch it slower while doing it. Let's learn a little bit.
Hey guys, I'm CG Smoothie, and I made a relatively popular video about how to make outlines for meshes in Blender. And a question I received a lot on those videos, like at least 5 times, which is a lot in my opinion, is does it work in Unity? And the answer to that one is like, no. The Solidify one kind of works, but not really well. But I have toiled long hours. I've learned about the Unity shading graph, and I can tell you the best tutorial on YouTube for how to make an outline shader. There are a couple drawbacks, and I will address those once I show you how to make it. But as you can see in this little sample thing, the shader works pretty great, and they all have uniform outline thickness.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
All right, let's show you how to do this. So to start, we want to start with a default Unity render pipeline empty template, or if you already have a scene and you want to switch over into using a shader graph, like I did for my roll the dice Game Maker's Toolkit 2022 Game Jam project. What you want to do is in edit, you should see a rendering, and it will tell you to switch to render the universal render pipeline. And then after that,
I
you
forgot
might
where
want
that
to
was.
upgrade your materials
That's helpful.
into URP, which is that. So I'm just going to add in
Not for this project.
this
but it's
Eevee model
helpful
that
to
I
remember
used in my example scene, so you can see
And-
what is happening. All right, so as you can see here, we've added in our Eevee. Let's also scale him down and bring him in so we can see him. And we're going to want to make everything as small as possible so we can add in a shader asset. Right here, we're going to want to create shader graph, URP, unlit shader graph. And we're going to call this outline shader graph. Let's double click to open it up. And we're going to put this in a side window.
Do you
so
think
that
he
we can
makes
see
this
what
a
happens
completely
to our
separate
thing.
layer?
So, for
That's
this,
the feeling I'm
to
getting.
start, we're going to make a base color. We're going to call this outline color. And we're just going to plug this in to the base color. There we go. Boom. Next, we're going to create a vertex normal node. That is not what I want. Vertex normal node. Normal vector. Close enough. And that one, we're going to go from object so that it'll take from the object's vertices and
I
get
feel like I'm
normal.
slowly getting
And
the sense
then-
of how this thing works.
Then we're going to normalize this.
Shader graph. I don't
which will
understand
make it
90%
so that
of the
every
nodes,
arrow,
but
every normal will have
the
the same
10% I've
strength,
picked up
so that
on
the
from
outline
playing
will
around
be the
is helpful.
same width on all parts of the model. We're going to multiply this with a new vector 1 or a float called outline thickness. This is just a number that's going to be our thickness. And what most tutorials will tell you is that you can just do that. Make sure also that your thickness starts out at a normal number, like we're going to call this 0.1. Most tutorials will just, or they're actually going to add this. I'll show you what most tutorials do and then how I can fix it and make it better.
Sure,
So we're
okay.
going to add this
I'm still curious if this is a separate layer or not.
with a position node.
Like, is he going to put two materials on the final mesh?
And we're going to take that from the object as well.
It kind of
And
feels like
then
he
we're
is,
going
which
to
won't
add
work
this
for
to
what
the
I
vertex.
want.
If we make a material with this, create material, outline material, you can see, or let's switch. You got to go to shader graphs
But I could
outline
probably
shader graph.
just add it with, like,
and make sure you saved your asset. And you can see it blows up the model and adds an outline, but it also hides this. So what you can do is
that's
in here,
awesome.
you can render just the back and turn off shadows. And it doesn't work that great, which is why I use something different. So what normal people would do is they would create a node is front face. And if this is false, predicate, 1 is false, 0 is true, and they would make that the alpha. Oh, see, the reason why this isn't working is because the Eevee is only being rendered with this material currently. Because our materials, what you would want to do is replace its material with the body and add another material with an outline material. This is
I
what
knew it.
most shaders would do, but it is not what we are going to do. And you can see
Okay.
the reason why it looks bad right now is we just have to delete, or we have to make it smaller, and it'll look less bad, but still not great.
Yeah.
You can see it actually outlines the model, but it doesn't look the greatest. but this is what most tutorials would end with.
Just because it's
And
adding
I
stuff in
decided
the inside instead of just going
that's
around
not
the
that
outside.
good. We want a better outline than this. It works, but as you can see with like a Suzanne model, which I tested with, it looks really bad around the nose, and we don't want that. So look at the Suzanne model, we add another material, and we give it the outline material. Also, as you can see,
Can I?
the outline is really small on this Suzanne, but most tutorials would just end it with this. What I did to make it better is I would divide this
I don't even get how that's an example
by
of a
the
bad use
object
case
scale.
for it.
So object scale. And then put this into the multiply. And save that. And now you can see they have the same outline,
For sure.
thickness. But as you can see,
That's a
this
good
nose
start.
looks really gross.
Okay, yeah.
So
it does.
what I do
It definitely does.
is I just take out this because we don't actually need it if we just render the back face, as you can do here. Nothing changes. So now what you're going to want to do is in project settings. So edit, project settings, and then let's just put this here. In graphics, you can see we render using this Unity render pipeline high fidelity render pipeline asset. And in the inspector, this uses a renderer. We're going to want to create our own renderer. And we can do that by going in here and create rendering URP universal renderer. We're going to call this custom renderer. Now,
Dude, it feels so good
gonna-
to just slowly go through a YouTube video. I haven't done this in so long. Just sat here quietly and watched and listened and learned something new without immediately feeling like I have to 2x it or speed through it or click around and find only the relevant part. Like I'm just chilling and just like learning something new and
change
it feels
the
good.
high fidelity pipeline asset, and it will render
I'm
with
being
our
a
custom
developer
renderer.
again. Being a game developer again, you know?
Now, as you can see, that didn't do anything. So in our custom renderer, we can actually do things. We're gonna make these, we're gonna take out their outline material, first of all, and then in layer, we're gonna make a new layer, and we're gonna call this outlined objects. And we're gonna relayer their layer with outlined objects. Now in our custom renderer, we're gonna render everything except the outlined objects. So, in the rendering feature, we're gonna render objects. First, we will render the outlined objects. But we don't want to render the outlined objects, we want to render their outlines. If you like how they looked before we did this, with the outline over the model, that is fine, you can keep it like that. I don't, so I'm showing you how I like it better. Again, you can stop if you want, but I think this is good. We're going to only render this material, and at a depth that is less equal. And we're going to render that after rendering this sky box. Then we will render objects again, and only the outlined objects. And we're rendering those before rendering transparents. And then if we tick off right depth, boom, we have now made it so that the outline only appears around the object.
Damn.
The one drawback with this outline, I will admit, is that outlines do not render over each other. But I think that's fine. You can see if we add a cube, there's a second problem. If we add this cube and we shrink it down to 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, you can see one problem. If we turn this outlined, it doesn't work very well because it is a flat object. This system only really works with shaded smooth objects, as you can see by this other Eevee that is not shaded smooth. If we turn the mesh outlined, you can see that it only does like a wireframe, and that's not very well. So if it only works with smoothly
well, that happens to be exactly what I need.
Shading objects. But I think it works pretty good. You can see.
Okay, would that work with my setup? Let me just like think about this for a second. How often would there be overlaps? How often would there be overlaps between the two meshes? Even if I have two things directly next to each other, they're still not touching. It could probably touch if I had one like right here, maybe? It's a very niche. It's a very small area that would like not double render. They're not even touching here. That might be fine. Okay, hang on one second, because yeah, I can get back to work now. I can get back to work now. So I'm gonna do that. Unfortunately. Work comes first. I've got a contract. And I'm not about to cheat them. Thought I had a little bit of time right now. It looks like I've got something that I can be working on. So I'm gonna dip out for now. Might come back later if I have time. Not sure, but that's it.